position. So it looks like Maxime has done some damage control, has done some preparation in between matches.
Yeah, wow, I'm really surprised. They didn't have that much time between games, and Maxime Vachier-Lagrave clearly spent at least a fair portion of that time looking at his opening notes, or maybe talking to a coach saying, what should I have done? This is risky, though. He has changed things up. The last 2-3 moves are new compared to the game we saw earlier today. But this was what Magnus Carlsen has prepared. And look at this. It's just a crazy position that's blown open. White is a pawn up. White has castle queenside, however. Now White is 2 pawns up. And Magnus sacrifices his queen. Look at the speed they're playing. Both players now, 17 moves. And they both have more time than they started the game with. This is opening preparation. Let's do a quick count. Black has a queen. White, in return, has a bishop and 3 pawns. That's a 3-point deficit for White. But White's pieces are active. White's pawns are advancing. Oh. Wow, this is some of the deepest opening preparation you'll have ever seen. This has probably been saved up from World Championship matches by Magnus. This is how seriously he's taking it. This is how badly he wants to win. But also, queen sacrifices, he does have a flair for the artistic.
This is absolutely crazy. The players blitz out up to this point, have more time on the clock that they start with, and Maxime's the first one to go into a think tank, and that can be a bit worrying with Black. When White's pawn is on c6, it's all about piece activity and making sure that Black doesn't get his pieces developed. The coordination going. Notice how that last move takes away key squares from Black's knights to offer any trade, especially that d7 point. Next, what Magnus wants to do is get the h1 rook to the d1 square and basically just dominate the position with pieces. But bishop and 3 pawns for a queen, it shouldn't be enough.
It shouldn't be enough. This isn't the best queen in the world. This isn't the best queen you will ever see. She's struggling for air right now. If she steps forward, then your move on the board, Tanya, the rook would swing across, and it's more about these other pieces. Also now, if the queen moves, this pawn might be up for grabs. I must say, visually, I really love White's position. You always get a bit of a kick as a chess player, giving up material and still having a healthy position. You just have the kind of pressure released. You're queen down. You can play kind of freely here. But then again, if objectively kind of things go wrong, you will be a queen down.
Yeah, visually I agree with you, but Maxime, he's a mathematician. He's doing the math in this position. He's got a queen which is worth 9 points versus 6 points. But it's really all about piece activity here. That rook from a8 can't unfortunately go to that a7 square to try to develop because the bishop on e3 controls it. Look at the way Magnus is using that extra bishop to take away key squares from Black. He's just not allowing the harmony in Maxime's position. Rook d8, a massive threat.
Massive threat that would fork the queen and the king if White gets time to play that check. So Black has to give some material back. How do you do this? I think you have to just block. What else can you do? You cannot block in this manner because White actually has another strike. This would win the queen back immediately, and you've won a lot of material in the process. So you have to give back a whole piece. If you're Vachier-Lagrave, you can drop your knight in the way of White's rook to block this deadly check. And I mean, this is just chaos, Tanya. I think I need 15 hours, let alone 15 minutes to work out the consequences of this one.
It looks like Magnus has worked out all the consequences at home because he's got still more time than what he started with, and the only way to defend the threat, the one that you were pointing out, is on the board. Magnus gets another minor piece, so that does add to that material imbalance in favor of Magnus, and I'm expecting him to jump in with the knight to c6. Is that a move that you would consider here, attacking that rook on e7?
It looks super scary for Black, and this is a massive threat. Knight takes rook would be a fork. How do you deal with this? If you move the rook away, then White's other rook can come in. Or maybe there's an attack against this piece. Maybe this bishop just moves. And let's do a count here right now, Tanya, in the current position. I need some help with the counting here. White has 2 pieces and 2 pawns for a queen. So added that all up. 8 points for White, 9 points for Black. White is ahead. The rook does indeed move. And now I'm expecting the bishop to drop back. I'm not sure which square it will use. Maybe even this one on the side of the board. But either way, this is going to be crazy. Magnus Carlsen bringing his A-game with opening preparation here. This is AI-inspired, this opening choice.
Okay, nice. This is the AI Cup. Is this the first game you want to say that about, or have we seen that?
We've seen a few moves, a few ideas inspired, but this is, I mean, no human would ever dream of going into a mess like this unless they were armed to the teeth with computer preparation.
Yeah, and David, I'm still thinking about how we got here, and it all happened so fast. I'm just wondering if it's a good moment to just back up a little, because Maxim needs to take care of that. As white, the one thing that I really want to do is sidestep my king from the c-line. There are so many pieces lined up on this c-line. There is a black queen, the knight, the bishop, and the king. I think the one move that white has to take time out for would be king to b1 at some point.
Is maybe the other tempting move, but here, black will give up the piece. Black will give up a rook for the bishop, and at the very end, I think this pin again will be decisive. For example, black can remove the defender of this knight. Next move, white will lose either one or maybe even both of these two pieces. Magnus, therefore, does not get tempted. He possible acts as a battering ram, creates some holes, creates some...
I want to know, what did Magnus do in the
material? It's a real dilemma, especially with half...
an eventual sacrifice of material to neutralize some of the pressure that we have. Magnus doesn't give him the time pressure, so there's a double attack in the position.
About controlling the center of the board, it's like it feels as if... Whoa!
Black's king.
Look at the squares. Bishop can step back to the square you mentioned. Who do you prefer here? Okay, he's gone for it immediately, Magnus Carlsen. I was going to say, who...
At MVL, just like stretching, just a normal day at the office. Just
a white king that might be brewing.
And of course, Maxim finds it instantly a bit before. This has been incredible to watch. It almost feels like the resurgence, like the French Renaissance.
This generation, they're still hanging around long enough.
And that's a key point. He's always been one of the... I think he's worked on it the last couple of years.
In the middle.
Is that natural?
If you look at this position as a one-off, it is logically to make kind of to compete needlessly. Now this bishop lacking squares, it's only got one safe square, and that's not a good sign for white. I'm expecting Maxim to activate the black knight, maybe in two different directions. He's just picking between those. The black queen cannot move. She cannot allow a check from white's rook on h1. The black rook doesn't really want to move necessarily. It looks like it's on a perfect square. So process of elimination, it's either the knight or pawns.
Wow.
He pushes forward, setting a trap.
Such concrete play by Maxim. He's just always going for the most direct line given the opportunity. And I think that is the kind of approach that you need when you're playing against Magnus. The more I look at this move, the more I like it. And it wasn't even something that came into my mind, to be completely honest. He wants to pick up the e4 pawn with a check now.
Yeah, I was going to say setting a trap, but actually, maybe Magnus has got a bit lucky here. He can move his king safely. The white bishop, the white dark-squared bishop, is poisoned. Black cannot take it because the black queen would suddenly lose control over the corner square, the h1 square, and white's rook would swing and checkmate black's king. So black, the queen here, is actually a bit stuck. I think he was trying to trick Magnus in the process, maybe missing something himself. I'm not sure this exchange, this transition has actually helped black that much.
Wow. Really interesting. We've been talking about black's king stuck in a mating net, and that might be the one thing that keeps Magnus alive in this game. And this is a best of two, right? So it's so important with the white pieces to at least find a way to get out of this without a loss for Magnus, because the next game he starts with black.
Yeah, suddenly what does Maxim play? Just to show this variation on the board, this bishop cannot be captured. Suddenly we would see checkmate next move. The black queen would have to throw herself in the way now, but this is checkmate. Look how the white bishop covers all of the escape squares for this king. And if you cannot take this bishop, what do you do?
Your move earlier, knight d7?
Maybe bring the knight out. I'm not sure which direction. Knight to d7, kicking this bishop. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. The bishop does have one safe square. He moves his rook across. He's trying to pin and win here. Maxim also makes a lot of sense. And how does Magnus untangle his pieces? Suddenly everything's hanging in midair.
Can you actually start with the same threat, go rook d2 and start threatening a mate from the h2 square?
I think he would love to. The problem right now is rook d2. I mean, this is what he wants to do. You're right, Tanya. He would love to give checkmate. This would be winning for white. Yeah, unfortunately, just about covering the square. Now the bishop can be captured. Magnus has to arrange this in the right order. Not easy to do this.
Yeah.
It's hanging by a thread. This one could be decided in the next 2 or 3 moves. Despite the bar saying it's less dangerous for white, in practical terms, he's still balancing on the edge of a knife.
How do you get the rook to the h-line? I'm just thinking of ways, David, because that's what's on Magnus's radar as well right now, to create that threat.
Yeah, he needs to get his rook to this square, but it is covered still. We need help. Let's ask the engine yet again. It's that type of position. It's so irrational, queen for 2 bishops. And wow, Magnus has a very narrow path to survival. Actually, if he doesn't find the best move, or maybe the second best move, he is toast, he is doomed. And the best move is so difficult. It looks like this bishop is cutting off the black king's escape squares, but you have to retreat it to defend your rook, allowing queen takes bishop, because this is so unnatural, because now you can jump in with a fork. And this is not going to happen, surely, Tanya. For example, we could see an endgame rook takes rook, black giving back the queen, but it is only black who can win here with a rook versus a bishop. I think this is actually losing this endgame. I don't think Magnus is ever going to play the best move here. The second one, maybe on the board. Rook to f1. This is more likely.
I agree with you. I like that move because it does set up the idea of going with that rook even further to f5 and then the threat of getting it to h5. Rook f1 definitely feels like the more human approach, but Magnus is really good with finding retreating moves. So I think he will find that move bishop to b3, the first choice by the engines. But that ensuing endgame that we just saw, I think it'll be the evaluation of that endgame that will make him not want to go for it.
He finds that move, Magnus.
Okay, he plays rook to f1, so yeah, the second recommended move there, minimizing the damage, and black still cannot go and take the dark squared bishop. This would end in checkmate. If black takes twice on the square, the white knight stands on as well. The rook takes, and then the queen takes. Also this checkmate. Black's king is caught in a box in a mating net. So the black queen's still frozen in the center. I like this move from Magnus. I think in practical terms, it still asks some big questions. And as Tanya pointed out, trying to get over to that h-file. If any check is the end of the game.
Rook f5 is a big threat. The rook left trying to get the rook to that h line. Black's got to try to fight against that. You have to fight against that checkmating idea, and it is coming for you. David, do you see a way for Maxime to keep up the pressure? And Maxime goes in with the queen. So his idea is that after, if you do go up with the rook to f5, how is he fighting checkmate?
I think he has to push a pawn. Black's g-pawn can cover some squares, but the evaluation bar doesn't improve, and I don't like it either. It feels unnatural. I think Maxime is stunned to panic because of the clock. The queen was centralized. We talked about centralization a lot this game, but queens in the middle of the board control everything. That queen was hitting pieces. It was controlling squares from afar. I think Maxime is actually losing a bit of control by playing this move. Yes, it's a one-move threat, but the white rook wanted to move anyway, and okay, it's 1 minute each. I don't even know who the favorite is anymore. I think this one could still go in all three directions.
It felt like it was a two-result game once Maxime got his pieces coordinated, but Magnus is back into it, and he does threaten a checkmate in one on the board. Rook h5, a big threat. Maxime, he will play the move g6. If you take on g4, I think the material imbalance just works out in white's favor in this endgame. You end up with two pieces for a rook, and that's a happy, happy trade for white.
Yeah, so what's he even thinking about, Maxime? Under 1 minute now, he has to play this move, otherwise he's losing.
Yeah, what's he thinking?
He has to prevent this checkmate idea of the rook swinging across. Okay, he does play it eventually. Magnus will most likely shift his rook up one square, and he's getting active at least. He's going to maybe take this pawn and go around.
But now it gets really random, yeah? Both players under a minute, and the position is absolutely wild. One bad move, one inaccuracy from either of these two players, and it could be game over.
I think we will see a blunder to end this. It just feels like that type of position, and totally understandable, forgivable in any for any human to go astray. It's just so weird, this position. I mean, it's just like their games from 2 days ago. Yeah. Irrational, crazy. What other adjectives can I find for
Beautiful.
it? Beautiful.
Fun.
Genius.
Yeah.
Okay, he takes a pawn, Maxime. Greed. He hopes it's good here, attacking white's knight as well in the center.
I like that, because if white was to take that a6 pawn, I think Maxime would be happy to give up the rook for the two pieces, and Magnus still keeping the pressure on the king, brings back the knight. Maxime as well with the tempo, attacking that knight, not allowing white any checks on the board.
And wow, look at that. White only has one move, otherwise the advantage grows to +6 for black, and that move is never ever going to be played. I can guarantee it. Magnus is not going to drop his knight back to a square. It can be captured. I think Vasiligrad is going to win this one.
Wow.
Knight d2.
That makes no sense.
Never going to be played.
It literally hangs the knight in one, which means that Maxime is very close to taking this one. If knight d2 is the best move in this position, to me it looks like white is busted.
Yeah, white's pieces just cannot deliver the killer blow. They cannot deliver a check. Therefore, one of them will fall. They have no coordination. This is where you need a queen, or you need some pawns to hold things together.
10 seconds for Magnus.
Look at him. He's so frustrated right now. He's looking for something that doesn't exist. He drops his bishop back. This is desperation. This bishop is hanging. Does black just simply capture it? I think you can take this piece.
And then you pick up the knight. Watch out, there was a check. Could he have he probably couldn't have, because black's queen was coming in with a check, and it would be checkmate on white. Magnus doesn't have time to capture on f8 because of queen c4 check.
Yeah, black has to move the queen. White is actually threatening checkmate with a rook slide into the corner, but black has the move. He does give the check, and it's actually, we mentioned it earlier, the first one to deliver a deadly check will win this game.
But David, the good news for white is that the bishop can slide back all the way to b2 to guard any checks on the second rank.
Here it's all about the material. It's queen for bishop and knight. And yes, white can block the checkmate, prevent the checkmate, but black's king is not getting trapped anymore. It's actually an attacking piece.
I think he can even just give up his queen for that knight.
Yeah.
You can pick up the rook and the knight by sacrificing your queen. Maxime, he may or may not go for that, but it feels like that should be enough as well with the g-pawn marching down the board.
He goes for it, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, and Magnus is on his last legs now. That black g-pawn is going to become a new queen. Nothing to do about it. Bishop clearly inferior to the black rook. And Maxime just has to be slightly careful. 14 seconds.
I like this move.
Beautiful centralization.
Shoulders off white's king, and there's nothing that can stop the g-pawn from queening. Maxime is winning this one. Go back with the rook, defend the queen. He might, yes, he does it.
He does it. White's pawn stopped. Black's pawn about to become a new queen. Maxime